Do you have a Python school test and you don't know anything? No problem. I will explain everything you need to know to become a Python pro. The first thing you need to know is, what is Python? Python was created during the Christmas holidays of 1989. Guido van Rossum, bored while working at the CWI in the Netherlands, decided to create Python as a personal project. He started developing it using languages like ABC and Modula 3. The first code commit was on February 20th, 1990. Since then, Python has become one of the most popular programming languages in the world. Python is a programming language that allows you to write instructions to make the computer do things in a simple and understandable way. You can use it to do a lot of things like create websites, analyze data, play games, or even teach a robot what to do. It is like a language that the computer understands and allows you to communicate with it to get results. Now that you know the story, we can start learning everything else. The first thing you need to know to start programming is variables. Variables are containers in which what you put can be of various types and are numerical variables, strings, booleans, lists, tuple, dictionaries. All these types have the task of containing files, but there are substantial differences. Numeric variables contain only decimal or integer numbers, such as 5, minus 3.14, or 1000. Strings, however, are sequences of characters such as hello world or 12,345 inches are characterized by having quotes. Booleans are values that can only be true or false, represented in Python as true or false. Lists are elements that can be of any type, such as 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C. If you are at the beginning and only interested in the beginning of Python, you can also skip this part. Tuples are similar to lists, but are immutable, meaning they cannot be modified once created. For example, 1, 2, 3 is a tuple. Dictionaries are collections of key-value pairs, where each value is associated with a unique key. For example, name, Thomas, age. 30 is a dictionary. Each of these types of variables has its own characteristics and can be used differently within a program. Input. In Python, getting input from the user is easy thanks to the input function. This function reads a string entered by the user and returns the value as a string. It can also display an optional prompt to help the user understand what to enter. The simplicity of input makes it easily usable for interactive data collections, but it is important to remember that the return value is always a string, so you often need to convert it to other data types, such as integers or floats, for further processing. Conditions. Conditions in Python are handled by the if, elif, and else statements, which allow you to run different blocks of code based on the truth value of one or more expressions. The condition structure is designed to be legible and intuitive. Python uses indentation to define the code block to execute for each condition, improving code readability. Conditions can be simple comparisons between variables or more complex combinations of logical conditions. Loop for. The for loop in Python is used to iterate over a sequence of elements such as lists, tuples, strings, and other collections. The syntax of the for loop is very readable and allows you to run a block of code for each element of the sequence. Python also supports the use of the range and function to generate a sequence of numbers, making it easy to iterate a specific number of times. For loops are widely used to process data, perform repetitive operations, and iterate through complex objects. Loop while. The while loop in Python continues to run a block of code until a specified condition remains true. This type of loop is useful when the number of iterations is not known in advance and depends on runtime conditions. Python requires the code block inside the while to be properly indented, which helps to keep the code readable. It is essential to ensure that the while condition becomes false at some point to avoid endless loops that can block program execution. Functions. Functions in Python are defined using the def keyword, followed by the function name and a list of parameters in brackets. Functions can contain blocks of code that perform specific operations and can return values using the return keyword. Functions in Python are first-class objects, meaning that they can be assigned to variables, passed as arguments to other functions, and returned by other functions. This provides great flexibility and allows you to write modular and reusable code. Classes and Objects Python supports object-oriented programming, OOP, allowing you to create classes to define new custom data types. A class in Python is a blueprint for creating objects, which are instances of that class. Classes can have attributes, variables, and methods, functions, that define the behavior and state of objects. Python uses the class keyword to define a class, and the init method to initialize object attributes. Python OOP promotes code reusability and logical organization through inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation. Lambda expressions. Lambda expressions in Python are anonymous functions that can have any number of arguments, but only one expression. They are defined using the lambda keyword followed by the list of arguments, colon, and expression. Lambdas are useful for short and simple operations that require a temporary function. They are often used with higher-order functions such as map, filter, and reduce, where a function is passed as an argument to transform or filter data. Although powerful, lambda expressions are limited in functionality compared to normal def-defined functions.